two explicit goals related to today's event. One is to improve the timeliness and accuracy of tsunami warnings through the development and expansion of monitoring and warning technologies, i.e. deliver the science we need to help improve our systems. Two, 100% highly at-risk communities are prepared and resilient to the tsunami threat. To help achieve this second goal, and after piloting in several countries for several years, this year the IOC launched its Tsunami Ready Recognition Program. This program is designed to help member states engage at the community level. This is important. This is really where everything comes to a head, is making sure everything is working at the community level. So we work at the community level with the at-risk communities to develop the preparedness required to at least be ready for when the next tsunami arrives. It is designed so that it can be incorporated in multi-hazard similar initiatives. We cannot assure communities will be safe against such a devastating and short-fused phenomena such as tsunamis, but we must help ensure everybody in our vulnerable communities, and by that we must include those of all genders and disabilities, are covered by a warning system, but also know what to do when the tsunami arrives. So thank you again for this opportunity. We look forward to further working with our partners, the member states of IOC, and importantly, the at-risk coastal communities. Thank you for this chance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bailey. It is really important to make sure that our local communities know what to do when we provide the early warning message as well. Now, to begin our discussion today, we have two experts with us. We would like to hear from, firstly, Mr. Itesh Dash, the team leader for the System Research and Development for Regional Multi-Hazard Early Warning System, or RAMS, who will be sharing on the innovations around decisions support system for tsunami early warning system in Asia and Africa. And secondly, we will learn from Ms. Ditya Buikoto, Disaster Risk Team Leader for the Pacific Community, SPC, on innovation on early warning system for tsunami in the Pacific. I would like to now start with Mr. Dash. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, speakers, excellencies, delegates joining both physically and online for this very important event. My name is Hitesh Das. I represent RIMES, and on behalf of RIMES, I would like to thank UNESCAP first for inviting RIMES to this particular event. And what I would do is just quickly elaborate a little bit on the Mr. Mark mentioned about the multi-hazard early warning concept. And since its beginning, in fact, if I would say RIMES inception started with UNESCAP support through the trust fund after the 2004 tsunami. And since then, we have been working under the framework of the multi-hazard early warning system. And RIMES name actually also represents most part of that framework itself. And especially relating to tsunami, we started working on, working with partner agencies, especially scientific agencies, including the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast, and in India, especially with INCOIS, India National Center for Ocean Services, where we use the products and services generated by the scientific agencies and transform this information into more usable information that communities can use for decision-making purposes. Since 2014, RIMES has started developing various decision support systems. And some of these decision support systems include, if I name some that actually we started developing under the trust fund itself in 2009-10, we call it the ESCAP, or a tool that actually supports the evacuation routes and planning for people living in the low-lying areas and in the coastal places across different cities, and especially relating to the tsunami inundation and threat level that we can simulate. And we also have developed tools especially to use the tsunami modeling system to understand the risk that these different scenario of events that can threat to the coastal areas. So we have done it for Sri Lanka. We have done it for some of the small island countries like Seychelles, Comoros, Mozambique in the west eastern African region, and also in the Maldives for, if you say, in terms of the development of the tools. Very recently, we started working in Odisha state, in the coastal state of India, where we have worked in generating again this different scenario-based tsunami threat levels, where because we all know tsunamis tend to be very rare events, but what we could do is understand the risk that it poses to the coastal areas. And the approach that we have taken is try to simulate different events, tsunami-genic events that can happen in different areas across the the subduction zones. And we have set 3 different areas, simulated the models across the Andaman region, across the Sumatra area, and one along the Myanmar border. And depending on different magnitude of earthquake events, we then simulate whether it's actually going to be a tsunami-genic event or not, and based on that, the risk that it poses to the Odisha coast. And then what we have done in addition to that is integrating it with the bathymetric models, topographic model. Of course, the data used still has its own limitations in terms of resolution and the quality. But based on that, we can understand the inundation extent based on the wave height and tsunami amplitude that can happen. And we overlay with the exposure elements that we have along the coastal areas. And so what this decision support system can do is provide you a very good understanding of different tsunami events that can cause different level of threats to the coastal areas in that particular state. And this is something which can be replicated and can be expanded to other regions, other countries, other coastal areas in across the region, because tsunami, as we have seen in 2004, even if it is generated in the Sumatra, it could go all the way to the far East African region, including Seychelles and Comoros. We have seen a lot of impact there. So we are working in terms of bringing all these vulnerability and exposure elements into effect and seeing the hazard perspective and see how different level of tsunami genic events can bring different level of risk to the communities living on ground, and then linking it to what decisions needs to be made, whether it's exposure or whether it's actually saving the vulnerability, most vulnerable community in the region. So this is, I think, one of the initiative that we have started doing in Odisha, and we are continuing to do so. And again, we would like to thank UNESCAP for our first program. In fact, this program started with ESCAP back in 2008-9. So I think with that, I will stop and thank you again. And I would like to take any questions later on more details if you want to know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Dash. Of course, we have early warning system, how we communicate with the community. And the most important thing is you use that information to make a decision, in correct decision at the correct and the right time to preserve life and property. So I think that's a very good initiative, and I think we would probably all would like to see that initiative spread all over again. So now I think we have also online to sharing with us Ms. Bui Koto from Fiji. Yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, it is indeed a privilege to participate in this event. And, you know, when we're talking about early warning systems, you know, I'm a firm believer that people need to be at the center of early warning systems. And I think we need to keep that in mind in the conversations that we're having with our counterparts. I mean, for the Pacific region, we do not have to look too far back in history to see how tsunamis have affected Pacific Island communities and economies. And the same is true as well for Asia. You know, we've had tsunamis that have traversed the Pacific Ocean from the Americas. We've also had tsunamis generated nearby, which has left, you know, very little time for our people to respond, to evacuate. And I note the sad events, the tragic events of Sisano in Papua New Guinea, Bay Matele in Vanuatu, and the 2009 Samoa tsunami that actually affected a number of countries, and the recent events this year of the Hunga Tonga Hunga Apai eruption and tsunami. Now, these events have actually helped us to change our own understanding of, you know, tsunami hazard potential in the region, its inherent risk to people, to assets, to our communities, but also the fragility within our systems and governance. And it's highlighted the need for governments and communities to actually work together to take action with partners to be able to provide targeted support. You know, the global community, I'm sure, you know, we agree that investments in tsunami early warning and preparedness actually needs to be considered as an end-to-end solution, even though implementation may actually be modular. You know, we need to keep this in mind that when we're actually supporting countries or supporting communities in either strengthening national seismic and marine observation networks or ensuring that staff have the requisite capabilities to be able to analyze the data, formulate and assess risk, be able to actually communicate that to communities, and you know, within those jurisdictions, that the messaging itself is actually understood, and that there's a reaction that actually follows when that message is received. You know, I actually wanted to just share with yourselves some key outcomes from the 7th meeting of the Oceania Regional Seismic Network. Now, this meeting was quite timely, and the reason for this is, you know, it came at the back end of commitments that were made during the Pacific Disaster Risk Managers meeting in Fiji and the Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference for Disaster Risk Reduction in Australia. And the actual Oceania Regional Seismic Network was actually formed by countries, and it came out of a need to actually strengthen seismic monitoring capability in the Pacific, but also allow them to lean on each other for advice and support. And in October of this year, we brought together representatives from national seismic observatories, the National Tsunami Warning Centers, National Met Services, disaster risk management practitioners, you know, with partners. And it was really the first time we had this sort of larger grouping that came together, and not just the seismologists or the tsunami warning centers. And what we came up with at the end of the week of discussions was there's still a need for us in the Pacific to actually strengthen the institutional arrangements that exist for tsunami early warning. That includes legislation and policies that have clearly defined responsibilities between warning centers, observatories, and disaster management. And if you're wondering why there's such a separation, it's because sometimes these functions actually are separated. And you know, and in the need to actually strengthen and improve multi-hazard early warning, or even in this case tsunami early warning, that we also needed to build it with a capability program, a capacity development program, you know, that actually talks to strengthening the competencies of staff who are actually within the warning centers, in the observatories, but also for our response agencies who are then having to deal with communicating this to the public, working with the sectors, and also working with communities. And you know, and I note that that TACWAVE, pardon me, is going to be an opportunity for the region to be able to test some of those standard operating procedures. What we've realized is that communities also need to be part and parcel of these discussions around early warning messaging. We often think of them as being the last mile. The reality is that they're also the first people to be able to report back if there is an unusual behavior, in the sea, of the sea, and of wildlife. And if we're not connecting that up with the discussions around early warning messaging, that we've actually lost an opportunity here to be able to leverage a community or communities to be able to feed that back sooner in being able to actually assimilate advice. We've also grappled with how do we actually learn from the Hunga Tonga Hunga Pai event? How do we actually start to develop and provide some guidelines for countries to then be able to use? And not just around the assessment of the tsunami warning capability, but also how do we actually start to harmonize the protocols between warning and between response? So the disaster management protocols tend to be quite well established, but are we able to offer that same advice for technical support? If it were related to tsunami warning capability, and are we able to actually develop some guidance? Now, that program of support didn't just start in this past year. This has been a labor of love for the AUSNet chair over some time, and I'm so glad to say that Eslin Karabiti won the UNDRR Leadership Award for Excellence earlier this year. Actually, it was in September of this year. And it's really with her leadership and guidance that we've been able to actually secure support from UNESCO, IOC, the Pacific Tsunami Warning and Mitigation Officer, Chuta Korobulvula, our UNESCO IOC International Tsunami Information Center Director, Dr. Laura Kong, to actually work together to go, how can we actually package some of the support and to complement what countries are already investing in when it comes to multi-hazard early warning. Now, this work on tsunami warning and preparedness is this community's contribution to realizing, the goals of the framework for resilient development in the Pacific. But we've also come to realize that by working together, that we can actually achieve the target G for Sendai to actually substantially increase the availability of and access to multi-hazard early warning systems and disaster risk information and assessments to people by 2030. And that really is my last words. Vinakavalyo.
We cannot hear anything from online audience. Thank you. Speaker is muted.
The 2 decades of leading the region in developing early warning system. And then we will hear from our representative from Tonga National Emergency Management Office, or NEMO, and also the chief of the Division of School Operating Management in Palau. So I would like to welcome everyone joining us online to post any questions that you may have for the speaker in the chat, and then we will have open the floor later on. First, then, I would like to invite Dr. T. Srinivasa Kumar, Director of the INSWAT, to present. Please, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm receiving a bit of a feedback, the voice. I hope it's okay now. Good morning and good afternoon to all of you. And I thank UNESCAP for inviting me to be part of this important event. I'd like to, in the next few minutes, talk about how risk information is helpful in strengthening preparedness and early action, of course. As we all are aware, all the 700 million people living in the low-lying coastal areas and SIDS are exposed to extreme ocean hazards. And tsunamis are rare, but they are very deadly. I mean, we have 4,600 deaths on average for tsunamis, and then it's very, every year we celebrate this and we commemorate this 5th November as the World Tsunami Awareness Day, so that we are able to raise tsunami awareness and share innovative approaches to risk reduction. Now, after the 2004 tsunami, Rick mentioned this before, we have made quite some progress. We have broadly identified the major tsunami source regions. We broadly know where the risk comes from, not fully, but yes, some progress has been made. We improved our forecasting models and enhanced dissemination technologies. But then, as all of us appreciate, tsunami warning is raced against time and demands high quality information in the least possible time. And the tsunamis of 2011 in Japan, Indonesia 2018, and Tonga 2022 have demonstrated to us again the need to have better risk assessments, better detection systems, and then enhanced community preparedness. On the role of risk information, all of us recall these recent events, and then we know, like for example, the Sendai region, which was not expected to experience more than a 3-meter wave based on the risk knowledge at that time, in the 2011 experienced waves of more than 15 meters and inland inundation of more than 5 kilometers, impacting critical infrastructure. And then similar records were also found in the Indian Ocean region after the 2004 tsunami, which led to tsunami deposits, identification of tsunami deposits, pointing to similar events back 1,000 years ago. So unless we precisely estimate the tsunami risk and update it based on new knowledge, we are underprepared for any tsunami, or for that matter, any disaster. Now, risk assessment includes source determination, inundation modeling, evacuation planning, and mapping. Though the advancements in science are equipping warning systems with improved forecast services, we need to strengthen and customize the detection and warning and dissemination aspects to account for specific risks. Like, for example, it's not only seismic risks. We have non-seismic, tsunamis caused by non-seismic events. It could be volcanoes, submarine landslides. We need to equip ourselves or enhance our risk assessments to address far source threats, near source threats, and the end-to-end warning chains and SOPs should also be custom built. Though the design could be, global or regional, I think the warning system should be able to address specific local risks. And parallelly, we need to facilitate better community preparedness and response, as earlier speakers mentioned rightly. For all at-risk locations, information should be available on how far inland, that is maximum values of inundation, how much water, which is flow depth, and then how fast, which is the minimum values of arrival times. They should be known by emergency planners, responders, and people in general. So risk assessments are helpful for coming up with all these information. And risk assessment should also form the basis for public education, so that public are aware that what to do when they receive a warning, or they just feel the ground shaking in case of near field tsunamis especially, and how and where to evacuate when waves strike. And this would be possible only when communities are aware about the risk that they are under. Now, I'd like to mention here the project funded by UNESCAP, coordinated by IOC-UNESCO on strengthening tsunami warning in the Northwest Indian Ocean region, of which India is also a partner, where a lot of work is being done in the Makran subduction zone to assess the probabilistic tsunami hazard assessments there. I think these things should form the basis for preparing ourselves and communities. Like, for example, we talk about tsunami ready communities now. I think the knowledge and information gained out of the updated risk assessment should actually lead to communities preparing for tsunamis, becoming tsunami ready, building their 11 indicators on this scientific knowledge. I think going forward, we all know the SFDRR clearly says that the effective warning system has to be based on knowledge of risks, and then potentially affected communities need to be prepared, and then warning needs to be timely, fully, and correctly understood. We need to continue working in this direction. The UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, which is actually being now formulated, the Tsunami Decade Ocean Program. There is a specific program, the Tsunami Program, which is actually being formulated. I think that this will offer a great framework for all of us, all the stakeholders, to work together to ensure that we have strengthened risk assessments, and these become the basis for generating advanced warnings, and then communities are prepared, much more prepared to respond appropriately. So this program, we intend that it will actually reduce uncertainties in tsunami warning. Irrespective of the source, we should be able to generate a tsunami warning, timely tsunami warning, and we need to ensure that 100% of the communities at risk to tsunami are prepared and resilient by 2030. As Mark also mentioned, risk in any disaster is really increasingly systemic. So we need to work cross sectors, between and within institutes, and ensuring harmony from policy through to activity. So on this November 5th, on the occasion of the World Tsunami Awareness Day, let us pledge to enhance tsunami early warning systems to cover every at-risk person, be multi-hazard, and communities be prepared so that they can act quickly. And when a tsunami does hit, none of the community should be left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar, and your commitment to making sure that everybody here committed to the early warning system, multi-hazard early warning system. And I totally agree that there's a specific needs to customize data and also the risk information to the specific area and specific hazards. So for the next speaker, we have the team from Tonga National Emergency Management Officer, NEMO, which will share their recent experiences from the Tonga Hunga Hapaya submarine volcanic eruptions and tsunami earlier this year. Please.
Distinguished representatives of the permanent missions to the United Nations, representatives of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be with you today to mark this year's World Tsunami Awareness Day under the banner Early Warning and Early Action for All. The climate emergency is an existential threat to many Pacific small island developing states, including Tonga, which currently ranks in the top 3 of the most disaster-prone countries globally, according to the World Risk Report 2021. Tonga is also prone to a full range of geological hazards, as recently demonstrated earlier this year with the Hunga Hapai volcano and tsunami, which caused widespread damage to Tonga and sent shockwaves throughout the region. In time of emergency, survival is the most basic of all human instincts. Yet millions of people globally cannot survive because they are not warned of the impending disasters. In fact, as of today, 1/3 of the world's population, mainly in the least developed countries and small island developing states, including here in our own region, the Pacific, are not covered by disaster early warning system. This is unacceptable, especially as we know early warning and early action save lives. UNDRR calls on countries to implement Tonga Target G of the Sendai Framework to increase access to multi-hazard early warning system and risk information. Together we can achieve the global goal set by the UN Secretary General earlier this year, that every person on the planet is covered by an early warning system within the next 5 years. A good early warning system is comprised of an interconnected value chain grounded on strong disaster risk knowledge, the technical aspects of observations, monitoring and forecasting, warning, dissemination and communication, and effective preparedness and response. So simply put it, enough for an early warning system to correctly identify an incoming hazard using technology. It must also ensure that our populations and sectors that are at risk can receive the alert, understand it, and most importantly, act on it. This requires all of us to come together at government, non-government, development partners, communities, and individual responsibilities. We all have a role to play to ensure our early warning systems are multi-hazard, end-to-end, and people-centered. And it is not only government that needs to be included in this system, but also our civil society groups, such as Red Cross, CSO, and church groups, local authorities, media, and communities themselves. We need to listen to and empower groups with special needs in the design and rollout of our early warning system, especially persons with disabilities, the elderly, and women, to ensure that early warning systems are accessible by all and meet the specific needs. Finally, we have seen time and time again in the region that local knowledge is indispensable. Through participatory design and engagement process, we need to factor local and indigenous knowledge systems to reduce and manage the multi-hazard risk we face. And in wrapping up my remarks today, I would like to mention a few achievements the government of Tonga has reached in tsunami early warning and the call for action. In September this year, 2022, Tonga commissioned a new studio building for Tonga Broadcasting Commission on the completion of a nationwide early warning system project, NEWS. The NEWS project will strengthen Tonga's capacity for risk management and its resilience against disaster through the improvement of three systems: emergency radio communication system, early warning sound alert system, and medium wave radio broadcasting system. In October of last year, 2021, and this year, 2022, the National Emergency Management Office, NEMO, conducted tsunami evacuation drills with all the schools that are situated on the coastal areas with the theme Safely to Safety. The objective of these drills was to educate the students on how to evacuate quickly and safely after a major failed earthquake using the worst case scenario of 9.0 magnitude. Early warning and early action for all.
Thank you very much, Nemo, for your messages from Tonga. I'm sure that everyone is agreed that there's a lot we can learn from them. There's a lot of important messages in that video as well. And one thing that's kind of like leading to the next presenter is that the working that they do with the school, the exercise with school, using the previous experiences and make sure that no one is left behind and all inclusive early warning system is provided. So as we have leading questions to the next presenter, may I allow me to invite Ms. Eileen Mikkel, the Chief of the Division of School Operations Management, Palau Ministry of Education, to provide her discussion comments. And I understand that she may also be introducing for us a short video to provide an insight into the work in Palau. Ms. Mikkel, over to you. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be joining this World Tsunami Awareness Day. In terms of tsunami preparedness, Palau has a tsunami project that is being implemented with partnerships between the government of Palau, the government of Japan, as well as UNDP. This project has supported school tsunami preparedness in schools that are located in low-lying areas in Palau. The tsunami project has been ongoing since 2019. They've been able to provide first aid kits to the schools along with fire extinguishers. They help support a workshop for principals to revise their school emergency management plans. And in September of this year, the project was also able to support a state community tsunami drill in one of our low-lying states in the north. Along with the tsunami project, for the past, I would say 8 years, we as the Ministry of Education have been conducting school emergency evacuation drills. And recently, in September of this year, we conducted tsunami drills for 6 of our schools that are located in low-lying areas. The UNDP is also implementing a grant from the government of Japan, and one of their projects has been to install early warning system sirens in all of the states in Palau. So we are also currently working with the states to develop plans on what happens when the siren rings. And I think it's important that within the community, like what's been discussed earlier, when the siren rings and if no one knows what to do, then there's no purpose for the siren. So we're currently working with all of the states in Palau to ensure that they know what to do when a siren rings. So in terms of tsunami preparedness, I think we've been doing a lot of work. In Palau, we've never experienced a tsunami. We've experienced wave inundations from typhoons, but even though we've never experienced a tsunami, we want to make sure we're prepared in case it does happen one day. And I think there's a video that the team is going to play for you. This is the drill that we conducted in September for the whole community. Thank you.
This every September of every year is Palau's National Preparedness Month. We have a tsunami drill / evacuation drill to happen in the state of Cayang. That is the northernmost island in Palau, which is only accessible by boat.
Today there was a tsunami drill. It was good. I liked it because I want everyone to be safe and everyone to know the drill.
Seral bornya agabusa ngariam lai maral malarar agal mong mardi maral mursel isel ter ramam le saya di imol korang arbab lebluma madi blap dia ka kegerin saya di imol 500 tsunami
experience rumah malaptok araas is kumda khusus kumang mga niya tsunami ulta ni tsunami liwin at malmugto ka aben barak malmugto ka raag malgi maknukli.
That was a very successful drill. The whole community was involved, and we got everybody to a shelter point and safely. And I believe this is the second time we've done it. This is the first time I've done it as a principal for the school.
And they've become so good at it that now the governor is asking that we don't announce when we're doing the evacuation drill. They want it to be an unannounced drill, so it could really at least bring us closer to the actual actions or behavior of the community as we conduct this evacuation drill in this month of September.
That's important for me for my family and my community to know what we're gonna do if we receive any message from.
I also liked it because I want all my family, friends, classmates to be safe, especially my parents because they help me a lot.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mikkel. It is very important that, we see what we talk about in action and, we see the involvement of the children and also the community that is really engaged in this process of implying the early warning and early action. So this morning we started a little bit late, so we may not have time for the question, but I believe that you can leave your questions in the chat and we probably get back to you later on with our team here. And, we are very thankful for all the speakers today. We're starting with some systematic systems and tools that we can help with early warning, early actions, and also we then hear from the experience from the countries that, the importances of being inclusive, multi-sectoral collaboration, all the target in Sendai framework are interlinkable. So, with the early warning system, this one is really reflecting the target F also. This international collaboration is very important in supporting each other in early warning actions. So, in this regard, let me move on to the last session. To close the discussion, an event today, I would like now to invite Ms. Armida Sausaya Alice Jabana, Under-Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of ESCAP, to deliver her closing remarks. Please.
Thank you very much, Kun Ami. Very good morning to colleagues, distinguished participants and friends. Today, in commemoration of the 2022 World Tsunami Awareness Day, we have had the privilege of sharing experiences between the UN entities, regional organizations, civil society, as well as private sector across our region. The commemoration provides a moment of reflection that is motivating, as it shows how far the region has come in early warning and early action before every tsunami. Allow me to close this commemoration event by echoing the call of the UN Secretary General to accelerate action to achieve early warning for all by 2027. So it means 5 years away from today. The establishment of the ESCAP Multi-Donor Trust Fund, just 1 year after the Indian Ocean tsunami, that was 2004, the tsunami, that killed more than 250,000 people in over 10 countries, represented a significant milestone towards a collective regional effort to address the unmet needs of early warning system and disaster preparedness. As we have heard today, the Trust Fund, as the only dedicated regional fund that delivers coordinated support in the development of multi-hazard early warning system, has proven to be instrumental in advancing disaster resilience, particularly for the benefit of high-risk and low-capacity countries in the Indian Ocean and Pacific basins. The innovative approaches supported by the Trust Fund, where we are proud to see, have been replicated as well as scaled up across the region by partners in a concerted effort to reduce the lives and livelihoods lost through the effects of tsunami. Continued engagement and commitment of member states will be essential to ensure regional progress towards enhancing tsunami resilience. Today's event has highlighted the importance of building partnership as well as leveraging data to ensure warning and preparedness for all in Asia and the Pacific. In emphasizing the importance of regional cooperation and partnership to tackle the challenges posed by disaster such as transboundary tsunami events, I would like to thank our partners, UNDRR, UNDP, IOC-UNESCO, the Pacific community through SPC, as well as the government of Japan, for organizing this commemoration event with us, as well as for the continued collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Alice Jabana. As a strong leader in the region for enhancing tsunami preparedness and a donor to the ESCAP Trust Fund for Tsunami, Disaster and Climate Preparedness and the donor of the UNDP School Safety Program, I am honored to also invite Mr. Yuichi Oba, Minister and Deputy Chief of Mission and Permanent Representative to ESCAP from the Embassy of Japan in Thailand, to provide closing remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Amy. Ms. Amida Sarsiari-Shabana, Executive Secretary of UNESCAP, Marco, and distinguished participants, good morning. Let me begin my closing statement by expressing my sincere thanks to be part of this important event. I'd like to offer our perspectives on disaster risk reduction measures in the context of driving a post-COVID recovery. COVID-19 pandemic has put people's livelihoods at stake. It reminded the world of the ongoing need to deal with various systemic risks. In 2011, while Japan experienced a big earthquake and tsunami, and they damaged the various parts of Japan, including my hometown, Fukushima, which is close to Sendai. And since the Great East Japan earthquake 11 years ago, Japan has been active in supporting disaster risk reduction awareness in the Asia-Pacific region, particularly among the younger generation, to share our lessons learned. Since 2017, Japan has sought to make schools in the region more resilient against the risks of tsunamis. We have funded a program through the UNDP in helping schools prepare against tsunamis in 24 countries that are prone to such risks. To date, more than 170,000 students from the Asia-Pacific region have participated in the tsunami drills, as you saw the video previously. In 2021, last year, the program has expanded further to also address the risks from the COVID-19 pandemic in an effort to realize synergies between pandemic response and managing natural disaster risks. Even such training materials were adapted to enable learning during pandemic-induced school closures. More recently, we have aimed to reach out to children aged 6 and 11 years old. Through one project, we published picture books like this. This is a picture book about the tsunami in Phuket, Thailand. And this picture book is based on tsunami experience in central Sulawesi, Indonesia. So these books are also available on the UNDP website online. So through this project, we aim to inform children about the magnitude of tsunami risks through easy to understand real-life stories from disaster-hit countries in the region, such as Tonga, Thailand, Indonesia, and Japan. And dear participants, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction in 2015 stresses the need to enhance international cooperation in mainstreaming disaster risk reduction in all sectors and taking a multi-hazard approach. In the spirit of this framework, the government of Japan has continued to support capacity building for this disaster risk reduction in the region. For example, currently, we're working with the UNDP in a project called DX for Resilience to support building resilience and driving digital transformation in disaster risk reduction measures in Sri Lanka, Nepal, Philippines, and Indonesia. Under this regional project, the UNDP has collaborated with the Japanese private sector as well to share knowledge and lessons learned to provide policy advice. To date, about 367 participants from government and the academia have attended the workshops under this regional project. The project has further helped identify ways to enhance capacity through use of data and developing applications that reinforce the resilience of local infrastructure against tsunami disasters. So in conclusion, on behalf of the government of Japan, I'd like to express our continued support to work with ESCAP, UNDP, UNDRR, and other stakeholders to achieve the SDGs and driving a sustainable and disaster resilient post-COVID recovery that takes into account the importance of achieving human security. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oba. And this concludes our commemoration of the World Tsunami Awareness Day today. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, everyone. For those of you in the room, we'll have a 10-minute coffee break. There will be morning tea outside served for you. And then should you be joining the Advisory Council meeting that's happening, we'll be